Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. 1 month before young Master Caleb Xiao's grand wedding, I was transferred to Matriarch Xiao's courtyard. Matriarch Xiao had always been famous for her benevolence. On every holiday or Buddha's birthday, she would award silver money to us servants. However, only after that specific incident did I truly understand. No matter how gentle they appear, a master only needs one sentence to decide the life or death of a servant. As soon as I stepped into the main hall, I did not see the matriarch, only Matron Zhang, her most trusted confidante, standing there waiting. "Hannah, you have arrived." Matron Zhang smiled kindly. "The old madam is taking a nap. She instructed that you should have some refreshments first." I lowered my head and glanced at the exquisite tray of pastries. My knees went soft, and I immediately knelt down. "Why are you kneeling?" Matron Zhang rushed to support me. "The matriarch's courtyard is illuminated by Buddha's light. I prostrate myself on the ground. This servant wishes to kneel here to pray for blessings for the Xiao family." Matron Zhang sighed, her eyes looking at me with a hint of awkwardness. "Today, you should consider carefully before answering." 2 hours later, Matriarch Xiao woke up. As soon as she stepped into the hall, she saw me kneeling before the Buddha statue, hands clasped, eyes closed in sincere prayer. "Hannah, what are you praying for?" Hearing her voice, I immediately turned around and bowed deeply. Reporting to the old madam, "This servant is praying for the young master's wedding to go smoothly. May the new madam soon blossom and bear fruit, continuing the prosperity of the Xiao family lineage." "Stand up." The matriarch tapped her cane lightly on the ground. "You know the rules. Do you know why you were called here today?" I bowed slightly, keeping my eyes lowered. "This servant is dull-witted. I beg the old madam to explain clearly. You have served Caleb for 3 years and understand his temperament best." Matriarch Xiao spoke slowly. "That lowly maid's affair last time was also resolved in time thanks to your quick wits." As she said this, a sharp glint flashed in her eyes. "This servant was only doing my duty," I replied politely. "Next month Caleb will get married. We should also choose a few maids to serve as chambermaids." The matriarch's voice suddenly rose with authority. "You have been in the courtyard for a long time. Who do you think is suitable?" Her words were like a sword against my neck, making my heart tighten. Today would likely be a difficult pass to cross. I bit my lip lightly and answered slowly. "This servant believes that choosing a person must meet 3 criteria. "Oh," Matriarch Xiao raised her eyebrows. "First, they must be a child born within the manor. Second, average appearance is enough. Third," I hesitated for a moment, "they absolutely must not have feelings for the master." The matriarch paused slightly while holding her teacup. "The first 2 sound reasonable, but what is the reason for the third?" "A chambermaid is just someone granted a title by the master's grace." I lowered my eyes and spoke more softly. "If they fall in love with the master, lightly speaking, they will fight for favor and cause trouble. Heavily speaking, they will cause discord between husband and wife, affecting the family." Before I finished speaking, I suddenly saw the hem of a dress move slightly behind the screen. I understood. The person standing behind there was the most beloved cousin in the family. Talia, she was also the bride about to step into the manor. "You understand matters quite well, don't you?" Matriarch Xiao's voice softened significantly. "So according to you, who in the manor is suitable?" I honestly named 2 gentle and hardworking maids. "I leave this matter to you handle. Do it well and you will be heavily rewarded." After speaking, she still did not dismiss me. I knew the matter was not over yet. At this point, I could only make a gamble. I boldly knelt down heavily. "What are you doing now?" The matriarch was surprised. My voice was as small as a mosquito. "Serving the master is the duty of a servant. I dare not ask for a reward for that." Speaking to this point, I bit my lip as if gathering all my courage, and suddenly looked up. "It is just that today, this servant wants to ask for a bit of joyous luck from the young master." Matriarch Xiao's face immediately darkened. Her hand tightened around her cane, her voice cold as ice. "Oh, speak clearly." "This servant wants to redeem myself and get married," I said tremblingly. "In the past, my family had a marriage contract. I thought that person had died or forgotten the past, so I did not expect anything anymore. Unexpectedly, last month he came looking for me. Although his body is disabled, he has saved enough silver to redeem me." My eyes welled up. "This servant will turn 18 next year. I want to keep a child for him." Having said that, I kowtowed 3 times firmly, asking the old madam to fulfill my wish. Matriarch Xiao looked me up and down, her eyes suspicious. She remained silent for a long time and finally nodded. Very well, granted. I bowed my head in thanks. Thank you for the old madam's grace. This servant will never forget it for the rest of my life. The matriarch signaled for me to come forward. She removed the jade hairpin from her head and placed it in my hand. The clear green jade was glistening. It could be exchanged for a year's worth of food for a commoner's family. I know all about Caleb's misbehavior, she sighed. I thought today you would demand a status. Who would have thought you would ask to leave the manor? I hurriedly took a half step back. This servant dares not. The young master treats the servants kindly. This servant is just a lucky person entrusted with ink and brush duties, no better than anyone else. This servant dares not accept such a precious reward. Her scrutinizing gaze gradually faded, replaced by a look of appreciation. Take it. I originally intended to wait for Talia to enter the family, and then raise you to be a concubine. But now that you have a good marriage destiny, consider this hairpin my dowry gift to you. My back was already drenched in cold sweat, my inner shirt sticking to my body. Matriarch Xiao's eyes were dim, but her words were sharp as knives. She did not sincerely want to choose a chambermaid. She was clearly setting a trap, waiting for me to walk into it. I secretly clenched my hands tightly. If I had foolishly opened my mouth to ask for a status earlier, I would have likely been dragged out by now. I would not be standing here listening to her speak gently. I received the hairpin with both hands and knelt down once more to give thanks. The matriarch gently stroked her teacup and spoke slowly. Caleb is about to get married. To avoid trouble, this matter should not be known to him. You just stay in the courtyard for another month. Be careful. Leave the manor on the wedding day. As you command. I bowed my head and replied. Being allowed to redeem myself was already a great favor. What did staying another month matter? After all, I was about to be liberated. Matriarch Xiao nodded with satisfaction. I glimpsed the shadow behind the screen quietly leaving. Surely that future young madam was now at ease. When I walked out of the matriarch's courtyard, the sun was still hanging high in the sky. The sunlight shone on my back, making my cold back gradually feel a little warmer. I turned towards the Buddhist hall, clasped my hands, and bowed sincerely and repeatedly, praying to Buddha that my wish just now would be fulfilled. In truth, I had deceived the old madam. During the 2 hours I knelt before the Buddha, I only prayed for one single thing. I prayed for my younger brother and me to survive in peace. 7 years ago, the border was in chaos, and my family was left with only 2 siblings relying on each other. To let my brother live, I sold myself to a human trafficker. I still clearly remember the day of separation. I held my brother's hand tightly, not wanting to let go, and finally left only one sentence. No matter what happens, you must survive. After being sold several times, I was sold into Marquise Ning An's manor. Speaking of this Marquise manor, it was quite strange. The old Marquise was notoriously debauched in his youth, nearly destroying the family fortune. He even caused a scandal where a concubine harmed the legal wife, spreading a bad reputation throughout the capital. It was not until the matriarch gritted her teeth and endured, supporting the household alone, and single-handedly helping the current marquis step onto the path of imperial examinations and officialdom, that the family business gradually stabilized. Having witnessed his biological mother suffer enough grievances from the concubines since childhood, the marquis swore he would not let his children repeat those mistakes. Therefore, the population of the Marquis' manor today is simple. Besides the madam, there is only one legal concubine and 2 chambermaids. After entering the manor, my life was much better than I imagined. My complexion even gradually gained some color. Every month when I received my wages, I would carefully save up, hoping that one day I could reunite with my brother and buy a small house to shelter us from the wind and rain. For me, living a peaceful life like this made every day a good day. Compared to the time of wandering and running from chaos, what was doing laundry in the Marquis' manor? Sweeping the courtyard was nothing to complain about. Just like that, I lived peacefully for 4 years. From a little maid in the laundry room, I was gradually transferred to the madam's courtyard to work as a second-class maid. That day, the maid serving ink and brush in the young master's courtyard caught a cold. Since I had followed my father, a teacher, and learned a few characters when I was young, I was called to replace her temporarily. Who would have expected that temporary trip would last for 3 years? Being together morning and night, the young master gradually developed feelings for me. My work became lighter day by day. On the contrary, thanks to the master, I enjoyed quite a few favors. At that time, I only felt that I was truly blessed to meet such a generous and kind master family. I remember very clearly day, after bathing, the young master called me in to serve. I only hesitated for a moment and then agreed. So what if I became a chambermaid? Just being able to live peacefully day by day was a blessing. Leaving the manor might not guarantee a comfortable life. For 3 years, the young master protected me and pampered me. When the lights were red in the long night, he promised so many sweet words that made me infatuated. I even naively believed that he truly considered me his wife. It was not until that incident happened that I woke up. The sky in this manor has always belonged to the masters. And I am nothing more than a maid living by pleasing the master. I absent-mindedly returned to the young master's courtyard, ate a few bites hastily, and immediately went into the study to arrange the ink and brushes. During the day, the young master went to the academy and was not at the manor. Now that it was the final month, everything had to be even more careful. I had to complete my duties perfectly while avoiding being alone with the young master. I carefully rolled up the young master's paintings one by one, tying each scroll securely with soft silk. When I climbed onto a chair to arrange the high shelf, I unexpectedly missed a step. Just as I was about to fall, my body fell into a warm embrace. The young master carried me horizontally, burying his face in my neck, his breath hot. "Annie, are you still angry with me? Let the servants do this work. Why did you climb so high yourself?" I struggled out of his arms. "This servant is a servant." He rubbed the bridge of his nose lightly against my ear. "All right, Annie, do not sulk with me anymore." It was truly like a chicken talking to a duck. I had to change the subject. "Why did the young master return to the manor at this hour today?" "Huff, I knew you were still thinking of me." He suddenly placed me on the table, squeezing his body between my legs. "You can rest assured, I am not lying to you. Wait for Talia to enter the door, and I will immediately tell her to raise you to be a concubine. Her temperament is naturally gentle. She is absolutely not like her mother, who is domineering and tyrannical." Hearing this, my heart, which had been hanging in suspense for so long, finally dropped heavily. How foolish I used to be, naively believing he had some true feelings for me. That day, when I mentioned the matter of being a chambermaid, he only said to wait a little longer. Now looking back, I should actually thank him for his fickleness. If not for him carefully hiding this matter from his family, how could I have been so easily allowed by the old madam to leave the manor? Only I knew that I could not wait anymore. I had to leave the young master. Over the past few years, bowl after bowl of infertility soup had drained all the energy and blood in my body. If this continued, I feared even my life would be lost. Therefore, I asked Uncle Tan, who delivered vegetables to the manor every day, to bring a message to Luke Liu, asking if his previous words about wanting to marry me still held true. Luke Liu was born with 6 fingers and was considered a sign of bad luck by the neighbors. Initially, he was just a handyman in the Tai-Ho Medical Hall. Later, thanks to his intelligence, he could remember hundreds of herbs just by hearing their names once. Dr. Li appreciated his talent and made an exception to accept him as an introductory disciple. I still remember that time when I brought ink and brush to the academy for the young master. I coincidentally saw him being surrounded and beaten by fellow students in an alley. Perhaps because his lonely figure at that time reminded me of myself running from chaos years ago, I used the name of the Marquis's manor to scare them away. Later, I met him a few times at the academy, each time when he was delivering lucid mind soup. Last month, he suddenly stopped me, saying I was the first person not to despise his 6-fingered hand, and asked if I was willing to marry him. Only at that time, I did not answer, because I still held a glimmer of hope with the young master. Leaving the manor might not bring good days. It was not until that day, when the young master once again avoided the topic of the chambermaid status, that I actively sought out Luke Liu. "If you truly want to marry me, you do not need to save silver to redeem me. I have my own savings. You just need to show your face." I had already prepared myself mentally. If he refused to marry me, I would find a way to provoke the young master. Even if I were demoted to a rough labor maid, it would be fine. As long as I did not have to drink another bowl of that soup, as long as I could keep my life in this bottomless deep manor. Fortunately, heaven does not block a person's path. This morning, before going to Matriarch Xiao's courtyard, I received a reply from him saying he could come at any time. Thinking back on this matter, fear and luck still surged in my heart ceaselessly. I pushed the young master's chest hard. "Young master, it is broad daylight." The young master laughed softly, his hot breath blowing by my ear. Since when did Annie know how to be shy? Haven't we done this during the day before? As he spoke, he leaned down to kiss me. I tilted my head to dodge, gritting my teeth inwardly, and spoke decisively. But this servant truly does not want to continue drinking the infertility soup anymore. These words indeed poured a bucket of cold water on his face. His face immediately darkened. He flung his wide sleeve heavily. I have told you so many times, this matter is due to difficult circumstances. It seems I have truly spoiled you to the point where you do not know the rules anymore. The door was pushed open violently by him, making a loud noise that echoed throughout the study. Before leaving, he threw back a sentence. If you cannot think it through, then do not come to see me anymore. The young master thought I was arrogant due to his favor, using the status issue to sulk with him. Little did he know that I deliberately provoked his anger. The angrier he was, the more he would refuse to see me in the coming days, and the easier it would be for me to quietly pass this final month. Once hope is kindled in the heart, that thought grows wild like weeds, from 100 parts to 1,000, then 10,000 parts. And at this moment, the intention in me had never been so clear and intense. I wanted to leave this Marquis' manor completely and leave this place alive. After that day, I met Luke once. He brought silver to redeem me. As soon as Matriarch Xiao saw his six-fingered hand, she was afraid I would change my mind and refuse to leave the manor. So she did not even bother to collect the redemption silver. She simply said that I had served wholeheartedly for the past few years and handed my deed of servitude directly to Luke. Seeing him off to the side door, he immediately stuffed both the deed and the silver back into my hand. I only took the deed and pushed the silver back. Take this to buy a house. The silver I have saved over the years is only enough to redeem myself and buy a small roof. Now that the Marquis' manor did not take the money, we saved a sum. Luke clutched the silver tightly. That 7-foot-tall man actually had red-rimmed eyes. Miss Hannah, I am truly ashamed. To think I have to use your silver to buy a house for our marriage. We are already family. Why speak such formal words? I pressed a fragrant pouch embroidered with twin lotuses into his palm. From now on, just call me Hannah Chen. Annie was the name the steward changed when I entered the manor. Now that I am free, naturally I must use my old name. He held the fragrant pouch with both hands, as if holding a priceless treasure. Hannah, I will definitely carry it with me every day. Then he suddenly stood up straight, his voice trembling but determined. Rest assured, although I, Luke, have nothing, I will definitely marry you properly with full rights. 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, justifiably and honorably. I will absolutely not let anyone look down on you, not even a bit. Looking into his eyes shining with emotion, I involuntarily smiled. I will also change how I address you. Ah, Luke, I am very happy to become a family with you. These words were truly sincere from the bottom of my heart. In Marquise Ning An's manor, maids signed death contracts, with absolutely no way to redeem themselves. I had no relatives to support me, nor fellow villagers to rely on. The times were perilous. Even with silver in hand, it was not easy to find a trustworthy person to redeem me. If not for Luke's willingness to marry me, I feared my only ending would be the word death. The young master's wedding date was approaching, and the manor was becoming more bustling. Everyone was fighting to work, hoping to gain merit and position. Only this study remained strangely deserted. As usual, I took advantage of the time when the young master was not at the manor during the day to quietly clean the inkstone in the study. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside getting closer. I panicked and stuffed the cleaning cloth into my sleeve, turning to hide, but I saw the little maid in charge of sweeping enter to change the incense. Sister Annie. She lowered her voice. This morning before leaving, the young master instructed you to help find the book New Meaning of the 3 Classics. I know, I replied. My heart felt bitter. The young master carried that book with him every day. Asking me to find it now was no different from. Also, the maid hesitated. The young master said that after finding it, he wants you to personally bring it to his bedroom. My hand clutching the cloth inside my sleeve suddenly tightened. Indeed, heaven would not let me escape so easily. I bowed to accept the order. Waiting for the maid to leave the study, I leisurely walked to the bookshelf. My fingertips glided over the spine of each book, my heart understanding clearly. The New Meaning of the 3 Classics was not on the shelf at all. It was currently in the young master's satchel. I had personally put it in there yesterday. When it was time to light the lamps, footsteps finally rang out. I pretended not to know, half of my body buried deep in the bookshelf, deliberately dropping a few unrelated miscellaneous books. Annie. The young master's voice rang out behind me. Didn't I tell you to bring the book to the bedroom? What are you doing? At this moment I turned around in panic, my sleeve still covered in some dust I had just touched, my face showing just enough confusion. Reporting to the young master, This servant is still looking. Perhaps it was arranged in the wrong place a few days ago, so I have not found it yet. He fell silent for a moment, his eyes darkening and pressing down heavily. A long while later, he said, Never mind then. Immediately after, he changed his tone, letting out a faint snort that was neither sad nor happy. Since you have not found it, follow me to the bedroom to continue searching. It had come. My heart suddenly sank. I bowed my head lower, my voice choked. This servant is stupid. I cannot even do such a small thing well. I truly have no face to disturb the young master's peace. Since it is this servant's fault, tonight, even if I have to turn the study upside down, I must find it for the master. I deliberately infused a bit of stubborn petulance into my voice. Indeed, the young master's voice immediately dropped. Good. Very good. Annie, you are becoming more and more opinionated. He took a step forward. His long robe embroidered with flowers almost swept against my knees. I bit the inside of my lip hard, forcing myself not to move. If you are so interested in searching. His voice was filled with anger, carrying arrogance and sarcasm. Then stay right here in this study and search carefully. If you cannot find it, do not dream of returning. The sound of footsteps left in anger, gradually fading into the silent corridor. Only when I could not hear anything anymore did I slowly relax my clenched fists. It was successful. Provoking him, making him think I was just sulking unreasonably, was more effective than any other excuse. This final stretch had been temporarily escaped. The price to pay was completely angering him. One day before the young master's grand wedding, Matron Zhang, who served by Matriarch Xiao's side, intercepted me at the corner gate. The entire Marquis's manor was busy turning the world upside down, so no one noticed the two of us standing hidden in a corner of the courtyard. Her hand quietly slipped out of her sleeve, quick as lightning, stuffing 2 silver banknotes into the inner pocket of my shirt. Matron, this is. Cuck it. She cut me off, a trace of gentleness flashing across her weather-beaten face. Consider this an old woman contributing a little to your dowry. My throat involuntarily tightened. I lowered my head, yet I could not utter a single word. Matron Zhang gently patted the back of my hand. You are a girl with great blessings. The other day, I saw that fiancé of yours. My old eyes guessed that he is a man worth marrying. I have judged people in this manner for half a lifetime and have never been wrong about anyone. My eyes felt hot and stinging. It was also thanks to the matron's guidance that day. Otherwise, I feared I would have She suddenly raised her index finger to her lips. It is because you are quick-witted and realized on your own that redeeming yourself to be a legal wife outside is better. She paused for a blink of an eye, her voice suddenly lowering. It is better than being like me, stuck in this manner for a lifetime. Even my own daughter could not escape the fate of being a servant. No matter how much the old madam usually loves her, when it is necessary, does she not simply order her death? I hesitated for a moment, but finally lowered my voice to ask, is Luna any better now? After that incident, the child went completely dull-witted. Matron Zhang sighed, a thin layer of tears shining in the corners of her eyes. I risked my face to beg the old madam for mercy, returning her to the commoner registry and letting her go back to the countryside to recuperate. Speaking of this, she laughed softly. It is strange to say, but after returning, she gradually got better. Now she lives peacefully in the countryside and no longer dreams of climbing the high gates of power. I squeezed her hand and nodded gently. That is good then. Matron Zhang suddenly lowered her voice and asked, and you? Do you still have nightmares lately? I pursed my lips and shook my head. I have not dreamed of them for a long time. That is good. She smiled with relief, as if a burden had been lifted. Concubine Hao's affair was not your fault. There is no need to take it all upon yourself. The corners of her eyes became wet again. Parting today, I fear it will be difficult to meet again. You are out now, so live well. After seeing Matron Zhang off, I returned to my room to pack my luggage. In truth, there was not much to bring. I had given all the jewelry and personal items rewarded by the young master, as well as my clothes and hair ornaments, to Luke, asking him to sell them for silver. Only a few sets of old clothes and some miscellaneous items were wrapped in a small bundle, leaving the whole room clean and tidy. I lay down on the bed and had a dreamless night. I did not lie to Matron Zhang. Since I thought things through and stopped blaming myself, Olivia Howe, that blood-covered girl, had never returned to my dreams. Matron Zhang's affection for me did not exist from the beginning. When I was first transferred to the young master's side, her eyes always looked at me with scrutiny, even hiding a hint of rejection. The incident began with a girl who was originally unremarkable. Olivia Howe was the niece of concubine Howe, a chambermaid in the Marquis's quarters. When her family met with misfortune, she came to the capital to seek refuge with her aunt. Initially, she was a timid person, cautious in every little thing. However, after accidentally falling into the water once, her temperament seemed to change completely. She often said strange things like everyone is born equal, and human trafficking is illegal. She also frequently barged into places she should not go, such as the young master's study or the Marquis's outer courtyard. That day, the Marquis' manor held a banquet. With a status like hers, she could not attend. Yet, she hugged a poem scroll and blatantly barged into the banquet, reciting loudly, hoping for the green leaves of 1,000 years to raise a cup for 10,000 years of longevity. The guests at the banquet were all stunned. The madam's face immediately darkened, and she slammed the table and stood up. The new emperor had usurped the throne years ago by killing his brother. The previous crown prince had cursed him on his deathbed to have a short life. Recently, the emperor's health had weakened, he was constantly ill, and his temperament became increasingly paranoid. Whenever he heard anyone wishing for 10,000 years of boundless longevity, he suspected that person was mocking him for not having long to live. There had been quite a few officials in the royal court who were demoted because of such congratulatory words. In such a sensitive time as now, the great aristocratic families were more taboo about this than ever. Yet Olivia dared to recite a poem wishing for longevity in the middle of a crowded banquet. The madam was furious and shouted, "How did this lowly woman get loose? Why haven't you dragged her down yet?" Then she turned to scold the attendants. "Whoever is on duty today, go and receive punishment." In that chaos, even concubine Howe, her aunt who was a chambermaid, was implicated and received 3 strokes of the cane, lying bedridden for a month before she could get up. As for Olivia, the madam ordered men to lock her in the woodshed. As a result, she disappeared the next day, leaving only a small note written that depriving freedom is illegal, freedom forever. That day, I was grinding ink for the young master when a commotion suddenly broke out outside. Olivia somehow barged straight into the study, pointing her finger at the young master's nose and cursing loudly. "You remnants of feudalism." The young master's face turned pale, yet strangely, he did not immediately order men to drag her out as usual. Later, seeing her strange temperament, the young master became closer to her. She demanded to bathe all day long, so the young master awarded her quite a lot of high-quality charcoal. However, in concubine Howe's courtyard, she only had one little maid. Every time she boiled water, she had to wait a long time. At first, she waited patiently, but later she turned to scold that little maid harshly. I sighed silently. Such a temperament was truly difficult to live with. It was better to stay away from her in the future. Until that day, after she and the young master finished their intimacy, the young master ordered me to bring the infertility soup. "I will not drink it." She glanced at me disdainfully. "What do you know? The so-called infertility soup in ancient times is just mercury soup. Drinking too much not only causes sterilization but also poisoning. Slowly, who knows, one day I might die young." Hearing this, I could not help but be horrified. I had been drinking this medicine for nearly 3 years. No wonder my body had been getting weaker lately, and my menstruation was becoming sparse. If I continued to drink it, I feared that, as she said, losing my life one day would not be wrong. "You must drink it." I tried to suppress my trembling and pushed the bowl of medicine forward. Before the new young madam enters the door, there absolutely cannot be an eldest son born of a concubine. I looked at her silently, knowing clearly in my heart that this time it would certainly not be easy to resolve. "Fine, fine." She cursed a few times and then took the medicine bowl. In this ghostly place, giving birth might result in 2 deaths for 1 life. My fingers unconsciously tightened. I thought she was someone who would use any means for a status. Unexpectedly, when discussing life and death, she was more clear-headed than anyone else. Later, when the young master's initial interest in her faded, he no longer paid attention to her. I also did not see her appear again. Accordingly, the rewards like precious charcoal and brocade were also cut off. She could not bathe every day as before. Arguments in the courtyard were endless. "Useless thing, can you only be a chambermaid?" She pointed at concubine Howe's nose and cursed. "You cannot even manage my daily bath." Then she turned to scold the serving maid. Your eyes are higher than your head. Seeing that I have nothing left to exploit, you do not even boil hot water properly. The little maid finally could not bear it anymore, and angrily threw the bundle of firewood on the ground. Do you know how much silver charcoal costs to boil a basin of hot water? Now that your rewards are cut, according to concubine Hao's allowance, we only get ordinary charcoal each month. Boiling is naturally slow. Moreover, the kitchen still has to keep charcoal for cooking rice. If we use it all for your bathwater, will the whole family stop eating? The more she spoke, the angrier she got, decisively ripping off her apron. All day long you mouth off about everyone being equal, yet when you order others around, you are even more arrogant than the masters. Concubine Hao is at least a chambermaid publicly acknowledged by the young master, while you are just an outsider staying here, yet you dare to be loud in this place. That anger descended, leaving Olivia with no advantage, so she had to be temporarily quiet. However, just a few days later, she suddenly barged into the main hall, shouting loudly that she was carrying the young master's bloodline, and the Marquis's manor could not continue to mistreat her like that. At that time, the young master was in the stage of discussing marriage with cousin Talia's Sai. Talia's father was a person trusted by the emperor. If this scandal spread, what face would Marquis Ning An's manor have left? The madam immediately ordered men to drag her out. Just then, cousin Talia's mother, who was also the Marquis's biological sister, came to visit. Hearing the news, this aunt was furious and immediately called the manor's doctor to check the pulse. Indeed, she was pregnant. The manor's doctor reported while trembling. It was not rare for a noble son to have a chambermaid before marriage. But if rumors spread about an eldest son born of a concubine, would it not be a slap in the face of the future legal wife? The aunt sternly demanded the young master to confront the issue, while the madam poured all her anger onto the head of Luna Zhang, Matron Zhang's daughter. You were on duty that day, you useless thing, she shouted, smashing the teacup in her hand onto the ground, shattering it. You cannot even keep watch on a crazy person. What is the use of keeping you? Saying that, she wanted to order men to sell Luna Zhang. Matron Zhang immediately knelt down to beg, kowtowing until blood flowed, bowing her head ceaselessly. Meanwhile, matriarch Xiao, who had been served by Matron Zhang from childhood to old age, only turned her face to one side, not even bothering to bestow a glance upon the mother and daughter. I understood. She wanted to focus all the blame on someone else so that her daughter would not blame her precious grandson. By rights, one only needed to wait for the young master to return, and it would naturally be clarified that Olivia always drank the infertility soup on time. I did not need to step into this muddy water. However, seeing the blood on Matron Zhang's forehead and the dazed, soulless look of Luna Zhang, a sorrowful pity suddenly welled up in my heart. Finally, I could not hold back and knelt down in the middle of the main hall. Reporting to the aunt, Miss Olivia drank the infertility soup every single time in front of this servant. Immediately after, everyone rushed to Olivia's room to search. Indeed, in a secret compartment under the bed, they found a powder used to simulate pregnancy symptoms. The madam was furious and ordered Olivia to be beaten with 2 heavy rods, and at the same time, drove concubine Hao, her biological aunt, out of the manor. When the execution took place, the madam ordered all the servants in the manor to gather in the courtyard to witness it. A courtyard full of people crowded together. Every time the rod, as thick as an arm, struck down, patches of blood and flesh splattered, making the onlookers' legs tremble. Usually, when punishing servants, at most they would be fined their wages or locked in the woodshed. Rarely was the rod punishment used. But today was different. To thoroughly extinguish any restless seeds and to deter the people below who were anxious, the Marquis's manor was forced to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. The bloody scene that day was truly effective. Several young maids were so scared that they covered their eyes and dared not look. Even the experienced managing matrons had pale faces, clutching their handkerchiefs with trembling hands. As for Luna Zhang, she was scared into a stupor right on the spot. By the 15th stroke, the hem of Olivia's skirt was soaked in fresh blood. Her breath was fragile, her mouth whispering vague sounds, her eyes cloudy and no longer seeing anyone clearly. But I had the feeling she was looking straight at me. The shape of those lips was clearly uttering a sentence. Why did you harm me? From that night on, nightmares constantly haunted me. In my dreams, it was always the bloody scene of that day. Every time I woke up with a start, the young master would hug me, softly comforting me. It is all my fault. I spoiled that lowly woman too much, letting her develop thoughts she should not have. But a cheap life like hers, if she dies, she dies. Annie, do not be afraid. The corners of his lips drew a gentle smile, but every word was like a sharp ice pick, stabbing straight into my heart, cold to the bone. At that moment, I suddenly realized. When a master grants a favor, it is like a god bestowing a blessing. You are forced to kowtow in gratitude. When a master punishes, it is like the king of hell demanding a life. If he says you die at the 3rd watch, absolutely no one dares to live until the 5th watch. I used to naively immerse myself in the young master's favor, forgetting my own lowly status. The petty jealousies, the foolish words like, "Who in this life I only need you." Thinking back now, how ridiculous it was. Olivia was once pampered by him like that, but today, because of the word, cheap, she could be beaten to death. Luna Zhang grew up in the manor and was loved by the matriarch, living better than the out-of-favor concubines. But when the master got angry, she could also be sold without a second thought. Tomorrow, how would I be any different from them? We are all just items in the master's hands. If they like us, they favor us. If they do not, they discard us, disposing of us at will. The 5th day of the 5th month, a lucky zodiac day, greatly beneficial for weddings. In front of the Marquis's manor, 10 miles of red traceau stretched endlessly, and the sound of wedding music echoed through heaven and earth. As the new young Madame Talia C sat in the bridal sedan chair, surrounded by a crowd welcoming her into the manor, I was hugging my simple luggage, quietly leaving through the corner door. Luke was already waiting at the head of the alley. We went straight to the magistrate's office. He quickly helped me remove my slave status and submitted the prepared marriage letter to the public hall as proof. In just half a day, I went from a maid under the Marquis's manor to the justifiable and honorable legal wife of Luke. He led me to newly bought small courtyard, a one-room house facing the street. As soon as the door opened, the scene before my eyes was filled with red. Lanterns hung high, double happiness characters were pasted all over the window frames, and everywhere exuded a joyful and bustling atmosphere. Luke's ears turned red, looking somewhat awkward. "Hannah, I arranged all of this myself. It is my first time doing these things, so I do not know if it pleases you." I pursed my lips and smiled softly, letting him hold my hand and lead me into the main hall. On the table, nuptial wine, wedding refreshments, a few bolts of good fabric, and a set of gold-plated jewelry were arranged neatly. Luke held my hand tightly. "Hannah, this is all my fortune. Although I am still poor, I will definitely try twice as hard so that you can live peaceful and happy days." "Okay." I nodded firmly. "We will live happily and brilliantly together." Tonight, I invited my mentor to officiate the ceremony, and a few neighbors also came to witness us bowing to the hall. His eyes sparkled like stars. "There is one more thing I want to show you." I followed Luke into the room, only to see that this place was also decorated exactly according to the standards of a bridal chamber. The bed was covered with red dates, peanuts, longans, and lotus seeds, wishing for the early birth of a precious son. Before the dressing table, a brand new set of wedding robes was placed neatly. I stared at him blankly. "You are a man, why did you bother with these wedding customs?" He lowered his head, a bit shy. "I asked the midwives at the medical hall. There is no such thing as a groom handling these things himself." My eyes heated up. "Why not?" He suddenly looked up, his eyes shining brightly at me. "What other people's wives have, my wife cannot lack even half a bit." That night, I put on the wedding robe he had meticulously prepared. Under the brilliant red candlelight, we bowed to heaven and earth together, and shared the pillow. A night of intimacy. When I woke up, the sun was already high in the afternoon. It had been a long time since I had such a peaceful sleep. My whole body was relaxed, and even my breathing was light and refreshed. Beside the pillow lay a piece of paper he had left. "To my wife, stay well. Your husband has gone to the medical hall first. Rice is already warmed on the stove. Remember to eat on time." I held the paper, unable to help blushing. After finishing the meal, I began to calculate my livelihood. During my years in the Marquis's manor, because the young master often read books at night and did not like greasy food, I had learned very skillful soup cooking techniques. Yesterday, chatting with Luke, I mentioned my intention to set up a small eatery. As soon as he heard it, his eyes lit up, saying that the medical hall often had medicinal cuisine dishes using medicine as food to nourish the body, but most were hard to eat and had few customers. If I could make dishes that were both nutritious and delicious, it would definitely open a new path. We discussed and agreed. He listed a few prescriptions using medicinal herbs as food, and I would figure out how to cook them to be palatable. A life like this with goals and hope was something I did not even dare to dream of before. I was full of spirit, and before long, I successfully tested 1 soup and 2 broths, all for nourishing energy and blood. Luke tasted them and constantly praised them. Even the neighbors, after tasting them, clicked their tongues in admiration of the wonderful flavor. I immediately asked Mrs. Yu's son, who worked at the largest restaurant in the city, to bring these 3 recipes to sell to the restaurant. Initially, I only thought that if I sold them for 10 taels, it would be heaven's mercy. Unexpectedly, that sharp-eyed shopkeeper immediately offered a sky-high price of 75 taels of pure silver, 25 taels for each recipe, only requiring me to agree to exclusive supply. When I held that amount of silver with both hands, a feeling of refreshment I had never felt before rose in my heart. That very day, I took 10 taels of raw silver and personally brought them to Mrs. Yu's house as a thank-you gift. When I was a servant in the Marquis' manor, did I ever dare to dream that there would be a day when I could use my own ability to earn silver? I even less expected that doing business would be like a natural talent for me, much easier than for others. I remembered clearly that even the most favored concubine in the manor only received 3 silver taels for her monthly allowance. Even if there were rewards during holidays, after bribing the maids and preparing clothes, the accumulated savings of a whole year would not equal 1 recipe I sold. I clearly understood that one cannot sit idle and eat away one's fortune forever. Therefore, I focused on honing my skills every day, daring not to be lazy. One day, I was testing a new black chicken soup with Angelica and Astragalus that I had just devised when a soft knock sounded at the door. Opening the door, I suddenly froze in place. Standing outside with a tall and handsome figure, was none other than young Master Caleb Xiao of the Marquis' manor. Young Master Yu. My throat choked, and the rest of the sentence was blocked at my lips, unable to be uttered. What is wrong? He stood there, hands clasped behind his back, his expression unfathomable. Annie, will you not even invite me in for a cup of tea? I originally did not want to let him into the house. But since his words had reached that point, I had to step aside to make way. Young Master Caleb strode into the courtyard. His eyes swept over the humble scenery, and he suddenly laughed softly. Annie, did you leave me just to live a life like this? My heart tightened, secretly knowing this was not good. His words carried hidden meanings. If I did not handle this skillfully today, great trouble would arise. Glancing at the smoke rising from the kitchen, I hurriedly spoke. Young master, please sit and rest for a moment. I ladled a bowl of black chicken soup and personally served it, offering him the spoon and inviting him to taste. Only then did his brows relax, his face showing a hint of gentleness. You still have a conscience, knowing I like to drink the soup you cook. Tasting a mouthful, his eyebrows furrowed slightly. Why does the soup smell of medicine? I asked cautiously. Young master, do you find the flavor palatable? The medicinal herbs are fragrant and light, skillfully covering the graziness of the chicken. He nodded slightly, then drank the whole bowl of soup and put down the spoon. For the sake of you cooking soup and waiting for me in the past, I will not haggle over today. Pack your things and follow me back to the manor. I took a half step back and shook my head. Young master, this servant has redeemed herself and married as a human being. I cannot return anymore. His face suddenly darkened. There is no need to mention the marriage. Once back at the manor, I will have a way to explain. Young master. I raised my voice. Now I am a legal wife with a title and status. This is my home. There is no reason to return to be a servant. The young master smiled softly, his fingertips stroking the rim of the bowl. So it is because of that. In the past, you wholeheartedly wanted to be a chambermaid. I once said that after Talia entered the door, I would raise you to be a concubine. When you return to the manor, you will be a master. I took another step back, my voice as small as a passing breeze. Young master, in the past, it is true that I longed day and night to be a chambermaid. But now I am a legal wife with a proper marriage certificate. Even if I am unwilling, I can no longer let people call me a concubine. His face immediately became gloomy, and he let out a cold laugh. What, do you still delusionally hope to be the young madam of the Marquis' manor? Ridiculous. I am dignifiedly the eldest son of the Marquis' manor. If I marry a little maid as my legal wife, would it not be a joke for the whole world? I bowed my head in silence. Seeing I did not answer, his voice suddenly softened. Fine then, I misspoke just now. Now that you are free, can I appoint you as a legal concubine? He reached out, intending to stroke the hair by my ear. You once said you would stay by my side for a lifetime. Do you intend to break your word? I suddenly looked up, my pupils contracting slightly. Legal concubine. That status must be recorded in the family genealogy and cannot be sold arbitrarily. My fingers clenched tight against my palm. Finally, I gritted my teeth and said, "The young master has a heart, Annie appreciates it. But now I have a husband, he treats me very well. Please forgive me, I cannot." Excellent. The young master was suddenly furious, kicking over the wooden chair beside him. "It turns out it is all because of that wild man. This young master will have him beaten to death today. Let's see what excuse you have to refuse then." The scene of the day Olivia was beaten to death suddenly rushed back, obscuring my entire vision. My whole body went stiff, my blood seemed to be drained dry, my face turning pale without a drop of blood. I knew the young master had aroused murderous intent. At this moment, I could only temporarily stabilize him and think of a countermeasure later. "Young master, please consider carefully." I hurriedly grabbed his sleeve. "This is not the Marquis's manor. If a murder happens, the officials will investigate." My fingertips tightened around his sleeve, my voice lowering a notch. "For a lowly person like Annie, it is truly not worth it." His face softened slightly, he reached out to lift my chin. "You still know how to feel heart-attached for your master." He narrowed his eyes, a warning already revealed in his voice. "If you had dared to say one more word defending that wild man just now, I would have." Taking advantage of the momentum, I stepped forward. Unlike the thousands of times before when I pulled his sleeve, I looked up, my eyes filled with pleading. "Young master, can you give Annie a few days? The marriage letter was submitted to the magistrate for certification. If we want to dissolve it, we must follow the proper procedures. Annie does not want outsiders to gossip that the young master stole another man's wife." Before I finished speaking, my body was pulled heavily into his arms. I tried to suppress my trembling and continued speaking. "There is one more thing. Regarding my return to the manor, can I beg the young master not to make it public yet? I want to go and bow to the old madam first. That year, she was the one who opened her heart of mercy to let me leave the manor. Now that I want to return." He stroked the messy strands of hair by my ear, his voice rarely this gentle. "I will listen to you in everything." Before the words were finished, his hand restlessly moved downwards. My heart beat wildly. In broad daylight, and in another person's house, he still dared to be so blatant. I immediately held his wrist tight, borrowing force to retreat half a step. "Young master." My voice carried a mix of shyness and just enough anger. "This is a rustic place with thin walls. If the neighbors see..." "Wait until we return to the manor, then." The young master raised his eyebrows and smiled, his fingers gently stroking my wrist. "Annie knows how to play hard to get now." However, he suddenly leaned in close, his warm breath blowing against my ear. "You should give me a little sweetness, shouldn't you?" I suppressed the nausea rising in my heart and hurriedly kissed his lips lightly once. Only then was he satisfied and let go of my hand, taking out a gold ingot from his person and stuffing it into my hand. "Buy whatever you like recently. Do not let yourself suffer." His eyes swept over the rustic room, the meaning implied. When the door closed, I watched his back receding into the distance, my heart left with only a desolate coldness. The young master had finally truly moved his heart for me. He did not care that I was another man's wife, and even promised me the status of a legal concubine. Such affection, if placed in the past, I fear I would have laughed myself awake from a dream. Back then, I only wished for a place to shelter. If I received even a fraction of his true love, it would have been considered a great blessing. But now, that true love had turned into a life-demanding talisman. A noble madam can tolerate her husband taking concubines, but she will absolutely not tolerate her husband falling in love with a legal concubine of slave origin. The day his affection fades will be the day my life becomes hard to keep. Moreover, now that I can earn a living on my own, why do I need to return to be a plaything for others to decide my fate? I never want to repeat those days of living hanging by a thread, not even for one day. Looking at the gold ingot the young master left behind, I already had a plan in my heart. 3 days later, the stone in my heart was finally set down. Mrs. Yu's son hastily banged on my courtyard door. "Sister-in-law of the Liu family, the shopkeeper invites you to Fortune View restaurant for a trip." I hurriedly adjusted my clothes, and once again set foot in that restaurant. 3 days ago, right after the young master left, I took the pot of freshly cooked chicken soup to find the shopkeeper. That shopkeeper was over 40, his face always bearing a gentle look. Lady Liu has always sold recipes through an intermediary. Coming personally today, there must be an important matter. I bowed in greeting. I indeed have a matter to ask for advice. I wonder which noble family in the capital is most in need of medicinal cuisine for recuperation. I just obtained a nourishing prescription, very suitable for someone recovering. My fingertips lightly grazed my lower abdomen, my voice lowering, hiding nothing from the shopkeeper. My family is poor. This servant wants to save a little more silver to prepare for having children. Saying that, I presented the soup bowl along with the gold ingot the young master left behind. The shopkeeper thoughtfully accepted it. He tasted a mouthful of soup, and a glint immediately flashed in his eyes. Lady Lu, just go back and wait for news. Meeting again today. The shopkeeper was visibly radiant, walking quickly to welcome me. Lady Lu, congratulations. The princess consort of the third prince, after tasting your soup, specifically ordered someone to invite you into the manor to be the head chef. Currently, the emperor is over 70, and the third prince has also stepped into his 50s. That successor princess consort, although already a grandmother, suffered from a cold a few years ago that damaged her vitality. Fortunately, the chicken soup the heir brought back from Fortune View restaurant made her gradually recover. Added to the shopkeeper's skillful words, the opportunity fell onto my head. The third prince is extremely fond of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Princess consort Rivalry is also an elegant person. The shopkeeper led the way while chatting enthusiastically. The manor treats servants generously. You have truly found a good place. Arriving at the side gate of the prince's manor, although I had prepared myself, I was still amazed by the imposing atmosphere here. Just the side door alone was taller than the main gate of a commoner's house. Steward Charles Chu led me into the small kitchen. That place was the furnace that gave birth to my new path. I had to quickly find an opportunity to have an audience with the princess consort. My fingers gently twirled the silver coins hidden in my sleeve. Taking advantage of bowing to pay respects, I used the momentum to slide them into Steward Chu's sleeve. Steward Chu. I lowered my voice, my eyes humble. This servant is new here. I am just a temporary chef waiting for the princess consort to recover her dragon body, then it will be time to retire. During this time, if there is any disrespect. Before I finished speaking, I felt his sleeve hang slightly heavier. Steward Charles Chu's eyes flashed, and he stroked his beard, smiling kindly. Lady Lu is too polite. The princess consort is benevolent. You just need to serve with dedication. In the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. That day at the hour of the pig, Steward Charles Chu walked into the kitchen and saw me still busy by the stove, unable to help being surprised. Lady Lu, why are you still here? If you delay further, I fear you will violate the curfew. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and smiled shyly. I heard that the princess consort has been suffering from insomnia lately. This servant wanted to try brewing a calming soup, and momentarily forgot the time. Steward Chu understood and personally presented the bowl of soup to the princess consort. That night, the princess consort truly slept soundly until morning. Since then, using the excuse of brewing calming soup, I was allowed to stay overnight in the prince's manor. The princess consort was generous and even specifically granted me a private room, so I did not have to squeeze in with others. Luke received the letter I sent and used the excuse of studying medical theory to temporarily sleep on the floor at the medical hall. I heard the young master came looking, but the neighbors all said I had gone to work in a prince's manor. The capital has up to 4 prince's manors. How would he know where to look? The opportunity came even faster than expected. Recently, the princess consort's headache recurred, and many prescriptions were tried without effect. While serving soup, I softly reported. This common woman has a husband who also understands a bit of medical theory. Most of the medicinal cuisine dishes I cook are guided by him. If the princess consort does not despise it as crude. Princess consort Rivalry rubbed her temples and nodded lightly. The next day, Luke brought his medicine chest into the manor. When checking the pulse, he was calm and composed. The prescription he wrote out was extremely unique. Using massage as the main method and medicinal steam as the supplement, he passed on the massage method to the wet nurse beside the princess consort. The princess consort applied it for 3 days, and indeed the headache decreased significantly. Since then, Luke was favored by the princess consort and was frequently called into the manor to check pulses and prescribe medicine. Months passed, and my husband and I saved quite a bit of reward money. But staying in the prince's manor could not be a long-term plan. Luke and I discussed selling our current house to buy a house facing the street, opening a medicinal cuisine and medical consultation shop in the front, and using the back as living quarters. This would provide a livelihood and avoid the young master's entanglement. Until I received a letter from my younger brother, that idea became even more determined. It turned out that over the years, my brother had joined the army. He currently held the rank of a 7th rank deputy lieutenant and was about to be transferred back to the cattle to assume the position of deputy guard of the Imperial Front Team. That year, when running from the chaos, I was sick to the point of dying. I gritted my teeth and pushed him away. Do not worry about me. Run and save your life. Yet that 10-year-old child carried me on his back, crawling out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood. When we parted, I still thought I would never have the chance to meet him again in this life. Fortunately, when I entered the Xiao family manor, I had a few peaceful years, but since knowing he joined the army, my heart hung in suspense every day, unable to sleep peacefully at night. Now hearing the news that not only was he alive, but he was also transferred back to the capital to take up a post, no longer having to fight for his life under swords and blades, I hugged the letter tight, tears overflowing and blurring the ink. In the 2nd month after the shop opened, the princess consort held a flying flower banquet and specifically instructed me to prepare a specialty cake. I carefully cooked a white poria and yam cake, shaping the cakes into flowers, elegant and lightly fragrant, hiding medicinal properties. The guests tasted it and were all amazed. The princess consort happily called out, "Quickly invite the lady of the Liu family out to meet everyone." Princess consort Valerie joyfully introduced me personally to the noble ladies who were interested in medicinal cuisine. As I bowed to pay respects, the corner of my eye unintentionally swept across a gaze burning like fire. The young master's hand holding the teacup trembled, the water nearly spilling onto his brocade robe. He stared at me intently, then turned to look at Luke, who was explaining pharmacology to the guests, his eyes gloomy and cold. I had long waited for this day, and had secretly prepared for so long for this very day. Since I wanted to establish a business in the capital, how could I hide forever? I understood the principles of the powerful very well. The thing they value most is nothing other than face. I borrowed my medicinal cuisine skills to gradually create some reputation among the nobility, deliberately letting everyone know that I was the chef of the Liu family's medicinal cuisine shop, but not an ordinary chef. Which prince or noble does not have times of headaches or body aches? Who does not need to nourish their body? In their eyes, I became a useful person but not worth worrying about. No matter how many tricks the young master had, he could not secretly take a female chef who had shown her face before the princess consort and had some reputation into his manor as a concubine. Because in this capital, what the aristocracy taboos most is losing face. I quietly avoided his gaze, knowing clearly in my heart that at this moment, he finally realized that the person before him was Hannah Chen, who could stand on her own and support herself with a skill. I was no longer Annie, whose life and death he could decide with just a wave of his hand. At noon, the wind chime in front of the shop suddenly rang urgently. I looked up and saw the young master standing at the door, his eyes cold as knives, tightly locking onto Luke, who was dispensing medicine at the counter. With a personality that always valued face like his, I really did not expect him to come again. "So this is Dr. Liu." The young master looked at me, then turned to look at Luke, anger already flaring in his eyes. "I heard your medical skills are brilliant. This young master came specifically to ask for advice." Luke was unmoved. He gently shielded me behind his back and clasped his hands in response. "I wonder if the young master wants to ask about an illness or a prescription." "Dr. Liu." The young master curled his lips in contempt. "This young master wants to ask you how to teach a wife. I wonder if you and the virtuous wife behind you still treat each other with respect like guests." Luke calmly replied, "Between husband and wife, where is there such a thing as teaching anyone? Knowing how to love each other and yield to each other, naturally, we can hold hands until our hair turns white. One life, one love." The young master laughed loudly, his laughter cold as ice. "Do you know? Your virtuous wife once promised to live one life, one love with me in the Xiao family manor. Now it is your turn to be coaxed by her sweet words. Caleb Xiao." Luke took a step forward, shielding me completely behind his back, his voice strong and clear. "When my wife was at your noble manor, she was merely serving diligently as a servant. Please consider your words, young master." He gestured to invite the guest out. "Today the small shop is not convenient to receive guests. Please return to your manor, young master." The young master's gaze fell on my hand, which was tightly clutching the hem of Luke's shirt. The folding fan in his hand snapped shut with a sound. She has a cinnabar mole in front of her collarbone. Do you believe it now? Shut your mouth. Luke suddenly shouted in anger. Although I, Luke, am poor, I understand that true love is protection, not humiliation. Have you ever thought, if these words spread, what situation would it push her into? People can die because of the world's gossip. Do you want to force her to death? Luke suddenly grabbed a pair of scissors and placed them straight against his throat. If you dare to insult my wife with half a word more today, I will immediately shed blood right here. I am a commoner, I can only use my own life to protect my wife, but I will also use this very life to let the whole capital know how the young master of the Xiao family manor forces a good woman into prostitution. I panicked and intended to rush forward to stop him, but was stopped by his gaze. The young master's face instantly turned pale, and he staggered back a step. He stared at me, his voice carrying both pleading and helplessness. Annie, as long as you agree to return, I can overlook everything in the past. We will consider it as if nothing ever happened. I shook my head, my voice firm. Things have happened. How can we consider them as if they never existed? Now I can use my own 2 hands to live peacefully, and I've a husband who knows how to love and care for me. A life like this, in the past, I did not even dare to think of in my dreams. I will not return. A look of panic flashed in the young master's eyes, but he still tried to maintain a calm appearance. You and I were already like that, and now that convenient husband also knows everything. Are you sure he still loves you? Besides me, who else would want you? The young master took a deep breath, tears welling up in the corners of his eyes. In those years at the Marquis Manor, I was truly grateful for your favor, and I also sincerely wanted to live with you for the rest of my life. But the matter of Olivia terrified me. I was afraid that every bowl of infertility soup would eventually take my life. I was afraid that one day, when the favor ended, my life would be no different from an ant. How can you compare yourself to her? The young master stepped forward excitedly. I sincerely love you. I will absolutely not let you fall into that ending. I gave a bitter laugh and shook my head. Really? Then do you know that before the wedding night, when the old madam called me to choose a chambermaid, the new young madam was standing behind the screen. If I had said one wrong word that day, I fear when you returned, you would have only seen my corpse. The young master looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His body trembled, his back hunched slightly. He looked at me shedding tears, his voice choked. Annie, I am sorry. I just did not want to lose you. Luke's warm hand covered my trembling fingers. I brushed the young master's hand away and looked straight into his eyes. If you truly feel guilty towards me, then I beg you, never appear in front of me again forever. Waiting for the sound of horse hooves to fade completely, only then did the scissors in Luke's hand fall to the ground with a clang. I hurriedly took a handkerchief to press on the scratch on his neck, but was pulled into a tight embrace by him. Wife, there is no need to say anything. His warm breath lightly brushed my ear. In these times, women already suffer enough. No one has the right to blame you. The next morning, the sound of drums resounded throughout the street. The steward of the Xiao family personally led people to bring a brocade banner embroidered with 4 words benevolent heart skilled hands to the shop. Tommy, the page boy, handed me a rosewood box containing rare medicinal herbs arranged neatly, accompanied by a handwritten letter from the young master. I am sorry. If you have difficulties, just find me. Our medicinal cuisine shop became famous throughout the capital from then on. For noble guests, we specially made high-end dishes like ginseng and bird's nest soup packed in exquisite wooden boxes. As for commoners, there were delicious and cheap dishes like yam cakes, wrapped in clean oil paper. Seeing the business prosper, the princess consort happily invested capital, helping us open another branch. On the opening day of the 3rd store, a squad of iron-clad cavalry suddenly stopped in front of the shop. The young general in the lead leaped off his horse, the golden light on his armor flashing, dazzling people's eyes. Sister. My younger brother Harry Chen removed his helmet, his smile still as radiant as in years past. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.